Hello and welcome back to Chopping It Up. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Parent, and we got a loaded slate today. First, I will be joined by special guest Katherine Kilsey. Just going to be talking about some things, and then JT, per usual, will be coming on, and we will be talking fantasy football. So let's get right into it. So, NBA notes from this week. 76ers so far, I think, are playing out of their minds. 6-1 without James Harden, undefeated since the opener. They did trade him. They have not lost since. They're on a 6-game win streak where they beat some legitimate teams. They got past the Celtics last night. They beat the Suns. Yes, I know the Suns are banged up, but they're still a good team. And they also beat the Raptors twice, who are a playoff team who they've had trouble with in the past. Embiid is looking like an MVP caliber guy again. He's averaging 32 points and 11 rebounds. And Tyrese Maxey is obviously on a breakout. He's averaging 25, 5, and 7. Shout out to them. They're looking good. The Bucks are 5-2, but might be the most questionable team in the league. The defense is not there, and they look slow. Giannis' stats are actually not as good as they are compared to past years. I'm not making a big deal out of that. Obviously, when your usage rate is going down, it's nothing. I'm not looking at his decreasing in points and rebounds to be like, okay, is this the decline for Giannis? Because it's not. I think he's still got plenty of time left in the tank. However, there's some guys on this team that I'm very questionable of if they can make an impact come playoff time based on the fact that they're just really old. 5 guys I picked out. Dame, they just traded their future for him. He's 33. Brook Lopez is 35. Chris Middleton is 32. Jay Crowder is 33. And Pat Connaughton is 30. Those are all guys who play meaningful minutes for this team, and I'm very concerned that none of them are under 30. Detroit is at the bottom of the barrel in the East, despite star talent, which I think highlights what the league has become nowadays and why I'd like to make a call for expansion. They got great guys, Cade, Jalen Duren, and Star Thompson, all young, looking great. Not to mention the veterans like Alec Burks, Bogdanovich, Isaiah Stewart. But Jaden Ivey is a guy on this team. He's averaging 20.7 minutes a game, and I just think that's unacceptable that Killian Hayes is getting rotation minutes over this guy. Monty Williams, I'm not quite sure what he's cooking up with that one, but hashtag free Ivy, I'm trying to get it trending on Twitter, and I like to see him in a situation where he can run an offense, and I actually think Utah would be the perfect place for him. Send him to Utah right now. I'm not quite sure what they'd give up for him. Utah obviously has all of Minnesota's picks, all of Utah's picks. And I was under the impression that Minnesota's picks would be very valuable because I didn't think the Towns Gobert thing would work. But we'll get to them later because I think now that's actually the reverse opposite is happening. But yeah, I think it highlights the need for expansion in our league. Even these bad teams have plenty of skilled players. And there's no debating that the Pistons are a bad team. But if you look at the amount of skill on their roster, you'd be like, in other years, you look at this team like, okay, maybe they can make a push towards the playoffs, but that's simply not possible, just based on where they are. And I like to take that back. I don't think it's not possible because when you have a star point guard like Cade playing like an all-star, anything's possible. But it doesn't look great for them. They're in a rebuild, whatever. Headed to the Western Conference, the Rockets have righted the ship. 4-3 now. I believe 4 straight wins after an 0-3 start. They have 5 people scoring over 13 a game. Dylan Brooks looks crisp. 15-5 a game. Obviously, we know him for his defense. Love to see that he's contributing on offense, though, shooting nearly 57% from the field, over 50% from 3 as well. Fred VanVleet, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, just about on the year. His shooting is concerning to me. He's shooting 36% this year. He shot right around 40% last year. I'm very concerned for his shooting. But honestly, as a veteran, leadership, you know what he's got. You know what he brings to the table. He's obviously passing the ball more than in other years. And I like him leading this team. And I thought they were dead in the water after 3 games. But this looks to me like this could be a play-in team now. And obviously, once you get to the play-in, anything can happen. Alperen Sengun also looking like a baby Jokic. He's averaging 18, 8, and 7 on nearly 60% field goal. Shout out Alperen Sengun. Lakers falting, injured. They just lost to the Rockets in blowout fashion. Braun looks sharp, but Anthony Davis is already hurt. 3-0 at home, the Lakers are, and 0-5 on the road. Could they be last year's Warriors? We'll see. Now on to the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are really good, and I don't think there's any debating that. They're 5-2. They have 4 straight wins against Denver, Utah, Boston, and New Orleans. Those are all teams that, at worst, are hovering around. Utah is a little worse than the other ones, but the Pelicans, Celtics, Nuggets, they can all be contenders if they're healthy. The Gobert and Towns experiment, is it working? I think it is now. Towns at power forward, we weren't sure about it last year. They were kind of a middle-of-the-pack team, but they look great this season. Edwards is breaking out. It's 28 points a game for him. Gobert is averaging upwards of 13 rebounds a game. Conley looks steady. That's what they need, I feel like, a steady point guard. D'Angelo Russell, very frisky, kind of jubilant at times. Shake Milton, Kyle Anderson, Naz Reid, just some guys off the bench. Shout out Naz Reid, honestly. Sixth man of the year, my sixth man of the year so far. I know Malik Monk probably has better stats than him, but I just love what Naz Reid brings to the table on a nightly basis. Going to the top of the West, which the Timberwolves, might I add, are not far from. Nuggets are still rolling. They're 8-1, just beat the Warriors without Jamal Murray, who is extended to be out for the rest of November. Hoping a healthy recovery for him. I want to see him back on the court. He's a great player, and the league is worse without him. Warriors look old, but Chris Paul looks very crisp. So far, last 3 games, Warriors took 2 L's and had a close win against the Pistons, which they were down for in a large portion of the game. Curry's averaging 30 a game, but Wiggins has declined. Clay has declined. Just from a points per game perspective. Wiggins is averaging 10.8 points per game, and I'm very concerned about him. He missed a large percentage of the year last season with family issues, and I'm not putting that on him. Obviously, there's stuff you can't control in the game, but he didn't look as good in the playoffs last season as he did in years prior, and it's just not looking great, honestly. So I'm interested. Maybe they could flip him at the deadline for some guys, but I'm just not quite sure what they're going to do. They have competent players that can take over his role, certainly. I'd like to see Moses Moody maybe getting some minutes, but we'll find out. Chris Paul, assist-to-turnover ratio is unreal. Call him Tyus Jones, 9.7 assists a game. Shooting has been abysmal. I got to keep it frank. But his passing with the second unit has just been exceptional. And the Warriors were looking to limit turnovers, and they got a guy who does just that. I'm not the biggest Chris Paul fan. If you know me, you know I really don't like Chris Paul and his play style. But I'm actually excited for this Warriors team. Dario Saric, I feel like, is the X factor for this team as well. If they want to be a contender, it's got to be on the back of Dario Saric's second unit minutes. This guy is an elite volume shooter so far this season. And I'm very interested to see. Maybe they'll turn to him starting over Looney as the going gets on. We move on to the season. De'Aaron Fox is injured, hoping for a healthy recovery for him. Clippers, 0-2 in the James Harden experiment. I'm very concerned. As of right now, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. First of all, their guys can never stay healthy, and Harden is no exception to that rule. They traded away some bench depth to get this guy, as well as 2 first-round picks. I'm just very confused because what I've seen out of that offense is just putrid so far. I really don't see how you can win with him and Westbrook in the same offense. It just doesn't make sense. Off-ball, I said I was excited about Harden being an off-ball threat, but let's be frank, he's old. Sometimes he's uninterested. Last night, we just saw him launch a pass from the corner three-point area, and it hit the scorer's table. So I'm very concerned. They're 0-2. Their offense has seen a massive production since he arrived. So that's something to keep an eye on. Grizzlies, 1-7. All we've done is talk about the Grizzlies, how they stink this season. Due to injuries, Ja's suspension, I think it's over for them, if we're being honest. The West is too tough, and they're going to need a huge comeback. I feel like the cutoff for the West to make the playoffs is going to be like 44 wins maybe, so I don't see it happening for this team. NFL, Panthers, Bears tonight. I call that one an all-time stinker. 2 bad teams. I will not be tuned in. Patriots playing in Germany on Sunday, so set your alarms. Game starts at 9:30. NHL, the Bruins are still atop the Eastern Conference. So that does it for today's opening monologue, and let's get right to our interview with Katherine Kelsey. All right, and we are back, and I'm now joined by
Katherine Kelsey.
All right, let's get right into it. So, Catherine, how's life? How are we doing?
I am doing great on this fine Thursday. I'm so excited for our 3-day weekend coming up.
So, swim season is starting. How are we feeling about the team?
I am so excited for the new swim season. I think we have some great new talent coming in with the new freshmen, a lot of returning members. Everyone's pumped. It's going to be a great season.
So now, as a senior, how are we feeling as a senior? You know, obviously going into swim, you do a lot of sports. How are we feeling just as a senior? What's the mindset right now?
Yeah, it's very bittersweet. I think I'm excited to kind of have a good end to my high school career, but of course I am going to miss the team. I'm excited to hopefully be sort of a leader this year to the underclassmen, help everyone out, and just be a good role model for everyone.
And so, journalism this year, you've taken an extended role as a advisory?
Associate editor of the magazine.
I got the A wrong. How are you liking that job?
It's pretty good. I think we're just kind of starting to work on the layout for the magazine, deciding what stories go where, working on where the photos are going to go, kind of how everything is going to be laid out. So it's kind of a daunting task, but I think working with Camilla, the other editor of the magazine, I think we're going to make a great final product.
Awesome. And you told me before coming on, you had something you wanted to talk about. What is that?
So something that has been on my mind recently that I think is just mind-boggling is Mandela Effects. Have you heard of those?
I have, but you should go through it for the listeners that may not know what it is.
So basically, a Mandela effect is when a big chunk of the population remembers something a certain way, but it was never that way. And I think it originated with Nelson Mandela himself and like his death. Everyone remembered that he died at like a certain time in prison or something, but he never did. And then he died years later after everyone thought he died. So it's just this weird, mind-boggling phenomenon.
Yeah, all right. So we got some examples. So we're going to run through these. I'll go first. One that I picked out that I thought was kind of crazy was that Curious George actually does not have a tail. I saw that and I was just bewildered. Yeah, that one shocked me.
That one's especially crazy because I've heard people say this. They really remember in the Curious George introduction him like swinging from his tail like in a tree or something, and I also kind of remember that. I just think it's so weird that he's a monkey but wouldn't have a tail. In my mind, he just always has had one.
All right, another one. Cheez-Its, there's no Z reportedly at the end. It's just Cheez-It. But I feel like that's kind of not as big as the other ones because you're not saying, oh, I'm going to go grab some Cheez-It. You're like, all right, I'm going to go grab some Cheez-Its because you're not just grabbing one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I say Cheez-Its, I say Cheez-Its, but it is because there's multiple. I think it's understandable if the brand would just be called Cheez-It.
All right, what are some Mandela effects that you picked out?
So one that I think is crazy is that Pikachu, the guy from Pokemon, has never had the little black mark on his tail. He just has a solid yellow tail. And that's crazy because, I mean, I have a little brother who loves Pokemon, and I just have always remembered the Pikachu character with the black tip on the tail to match the black on his ears. Like, he's been black and yellow. So it's crazy that that's just never been the case, even though so many people remember him having that black mark on his tail.
I find that insane as well. I grew up like Catherine's brother, I gotta confess. Until like middle school, I was the biggest Pokemon guy. And yeah, that one was shocking for me.
All right, what about the Monopoly man never having the little eyeglass monocle thing? I distinctly remember him having it. I don't know if it's just because he's like a little businessman and that's kind of what I associate businessmen having is the little eyeglass, but he's never had it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. It just feels like it doesn't make sense as to why he would not have a monocle.
All right, this one's close to home. As someone who is often called Cat or Kit Kat, the Kit Kat has never had the little hyphen in between the Kit and the Kat. It's just Kit Kat, which is so weird because, I mean, Kit Kats are like my favorite candy, and I just feel like they should have the dash, like Kit-Kat, Kit Kat.
For sure. All right, and then the last one that I picked out that I thought was kind of crazy is the Berenstain Bears. I watched that show when I was younger. Apparently, it's not the Berenstain Bears. It's actually the Berenstain Bears. It has an A instead of an E. That one shocked me.
This show was a childhood favorite of mine in the books, and I actually do remember it being Berenstain Bears. Maybe it's just because I was kind of like watching the show and I just remember it being Berenstain, but I do know so many people pronounce it Berenstein and remember it Berenstein. I personally have not fallen for this Mandela effect, but I know a lot of people have.
All right. So I also know, Katherine, you are a big Tame Impala fan, and I am as well. So I want to know what the best Tame Impala song, in your opinion, is.
I do love Tame Impala, and I have a lot of songs that I absolutely love by Tame Impala, but I think my favorite, as of right now, has to be the song Reality in Motion. It's just a great song, great vibe. I love it.
Great pick. And as an overall overview of the band, why would you encourage people to listen to them? Because I feel like they don't get talked about, and it's a very underrated group of musicians.
So I love Tame Impala just because everything is very vibey, and it always puts me in a good mood. I love their beats, good lyrics, and I just think it's a great listening experience. Very different than a lot of other artists I listen to, but just amazing. Great listening experience.
All right, final question. Is it too early to start playing Christmas music?
I believe that it is never too early to start listening to Christmas music. I personally have been listening to Christmas music since July, and I already have my Christmas decorations up. I am very much in the holiday spirit already.
Great take. Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to make?
Thank you so much for having me on this podcast, and make sure to tune into the next episode.
Of course. Thank you, Katherine, for coming on, and we will catch you guys in the next segment.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the JTLP podcast. This is strictly fantasy football, and let's just get it rolling. So my matchup of the week is Breece Hall against the Raiders. The last 3 weeks that the Raiders have faced any running backs, last week the Raiders faced the Lions and Jahmyr Gibbs. He dropped 31.9 points. The week before that, Deontay Foreman dropped 33 points. And then the week before that, Ramondre Stevenson dropped exactly 18 points, and then Ezekiel Elliott dropped 11.9. And another matchup of the week would be James Cook against the worst run defense, the Denver Broncos. Honestly, I just feel like the Bills are just going to kill them early, and it's just going to be a huge run game afterwards. So he's going to get a bunch of garbage time, maybe a couple TDs. I'm liking him for a strong 15 plus. Nothing crazy, but I think 15 plus is pretty reasonable. And as well as matchups of the week, we have Debo coming back. I'm a big 49ers fan, as everyone knows. I'm loving Debo this week. It's either him, Ayuk, or Kittle sometimes. But honestly, Debo hasn't played in 2 weeks. They're gonna go to their main guy. He's the screen guy. He's the yard after catch guy. I think he's gonna go for at least 17 points. I'm really confident when I say that. Debo is gonna be a big piece. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and they need to start winning now. So if they don't use one of their best players, then it just doesn't make sense. So I think Debo is also a must start. And they're facing the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I also feel like Purdy's also a must-start. They have all their pieces back. Jacksonville's also been really hot. Jacksonville has crazy weapons as well. But, the 49ers defense just got better. We just got Chase Young. We just gave away a third-round pick. So at this point, after the bye week, I feel like the 49ers team just had a good time to just relax and chill, and now they're back to dominate. So honestly, I feel like Debo's a must-start, and I also feel like Purdy's a must-start. And, that's pretty much all I have for this week, and thank you.
Thank you for the fantasy advice, as always, JT, and we got a special surprise segment coming up. All right, I'm back. We got JT to my right. We got a special guest.
Hi, I'm Alaina.
And we're going to be talking about what we think the best childhood food is. Alaina, would you like to lead us off?
Oh, okay. I feel like there's a lot of good childhood foods. I don't know. I feel like, but not all qualify as snacks. I would say that my favorite, though, was, Oreos, Cheez-Its, Goldfish. But that's, typical. Even, now, I would say those are my favorite snacks. It didn't just last in childhood, and I wasn't like, oh, well, I only ate those as a kid.
Now, we're talking Goldfish. What's your top Goldfish flavor?
Original Goldfish? What else am I... If you're saying, pretzel Goldfish, you're crazy.
What about, colors?
Oh, the Goldfish are good fire.
All right, I'll go next. I'm tabbing animal crackers as my top childhood snack. So good. Not even the frosted ones, just the plain ones. The frosted takes
Plain
away
animal
from
crackers
them.
is crazy.
Very good snack. I still eat them to this day. JT, you got last. What's your pick?
I got two personal favorites. First, we're gonna go with something more common. I used to, when I was a small child, I used to get a big jug and I used to throw like 12 Oreos in there, a whole bunch of milk, and I used to mush up the Oreos and I used to eat the mushed up Oreos like cereal. Second, might be a little a little disturbing. It's actually either Nacho Doritos or Cool Ranch Doritos. It's usually Cool Ranch Doritos, but it's Cool Ranch Doritos with massive amounts of ketchup. I like eating I love eating Doritos with a lot of ketchup. And people are like, ew, it's gross. No, it's actually fantastic. Something about I don't know. Like I feel like people need to try it in order to, to not hate on it. But yeah, Doritos and a lot of ketchup.
All right, this was Chopping It Up episode 2, and we will see you back on Tuesday.